And we are live. Man, can you believe it, Shane? We are, I mean, we're, come on, come on. Are we here? Yeah. Hey, Mr. Producer, can you bring that down a little bit? There we go. Come on, come on. I kind of like that. There you go.
I like it.
All right. Let's do a little, look at that. Man, Postal Outpost. Let's go. Love the dream. Agent Bay's in the house. Repo Man. Good to see you, brother. Hi, Mike. Well, it's nice to be first on your list, brother. I love you, man. All right. All right. Well, let's, as this is titled, the Trump Train Dream given to Philip Barnett. And that was, I believe, in 2016. But we're going to lighten things up just a little bit. Shane, thank you for joining me on this. I appreciate it. And Shane's got something that he's going to share with us here. And I find this very interesting because this is what I have. Well, I haven't done it in a while, but let's go, Shane.
All right, I'll play this. I'll just talk through it. So this here is the B5000 incubator. I'm kidding. It's an incubator, though, from the Nanny McCluckins. They were kind enough to lend me this incubator. And in 21 days, you're going to see some chicks hatch here. And I thought of Steven when I began this process yesterday. And you could see there's a little rotator there. This little clamp right here will actually rotate the eggs for me so that I don't have to. Day 18, they start to hatch. By day 21, we can get up to 9 chicks. And I thought, Steven, you would get a kick out of this because every time I'm on your channel, I hear a rooster crowing in the background.
No. Yes, and yeah, but I don't know about the 17 or 18 days because generally mine would maybe the day before, 21 days is kind of the general rule of thumb. I'm not a professional at anything. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. And so, and sometimes I'll just leave it. And I have had them hatch on, day 23 and 24.
Yep.
And so that's really cool. Did you buy those eggs, fertilized eggs?
Some friends actually let me test it out because they have Nanny McCluckin's hatchery, and if anybody wants to get their hatchery, they can just go to their website, Nanny McCluckin's. But this is their own business, and every year this time they actually rent out these incubators, and they fill them with eggs, and then you just document and you just watch it. And they say like about day 18, you start to see some of the cracks. Now, not all the eggs will crack at the same time, but usually by day 21, you get an idea of what's going on. And sometimes you might get a little stragglers, like there might be a couple of eggs that are just a dud. You don't know, right? So, but on day 3, like even today, I think I could start to candle these eggs if our audience doesn't know what candling is. Basically, there's a little LED light there, and I can actually hold the egg over the LED light, and then I can see the chicken inside, like just to see its beginnings, and then you can just every few days you just check it and see what's going on inside, right? So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, you'll start seeing like even like even after like a couple of days, you can start seeing some like little veins.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be kind of fun. And I wanted to just check it out. I'm good friends with them, and they said, yeah, here, check it out, document it. So I'll videotape some of the stuff for them, and then they can use it on their social media or whatever it is, right? So it'd be kind of fun when they hear me screaming, "This is so exciting!"
Oh, Shane, whenever I first started doing that, I was starting to do like I was just doing silly videos, and I was gonna had a phone down there, and I was gonna run a live stream on chickens, and I did do like there was somewhere on my channel. I think I may have taken it private when all this other stuff, but I mean it was uh, live streaming the chicken hatching. So so anyway, it takes a lot of patience for somebody to sit there and watch
Well, I'm not watching it all day. I'm just once a day I'll come in and check on it. The action doesn't start till about day 18, so that's when I'll be paying attention. So,
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Philip Barnett had emailed this to me about 4 or 5 days ago. And this was a dream that he had. And let me just go ahead and bring it up.
Now, your music, I think, is still playing in the background. Did you want that? I don't mind the ambience, but
oh no,
let me want it.
See that's okay. There we go. Turn that off. Thank you, Shane. Thank you.
Problem.
All right. I know, Mr. Producer, you were the one playing the music too loud. That's your fault.
That's my fault. Producer, fire the producer.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So again, just a disclaimer here, that this is what was given to Philip Barnett, and and as everyone knows, and well, I don't know if everyone knows. I mean, the things that he has dreamed about Ukraine happened exactly, but this has a little bit more. I guess you could say maybe some interpretation to it, and that's why I asked Shane to join me on this, and so we're going to just read it straight through, and then we're gonna talk about it, and maybe do some review on it on what, because I would just want everybody to use their own discernment. That's in all of this. We all have to use our own discernment. And
maybe we can break it into chunks, because it's 15 pages. If we read the whole thing, I'm probably not going to remember what happened on page 1. I don't know if you want to break it up a little bit, like read a couple of pages, 2-3 pages, and then go, hey, let's unpack this a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to get started here. The Trump Train Dream, as given to pastor and missionary Philip Barnett in the spring of 2016. The 2016 presidential campaign of Donald Trump was formally launched on June 16, 2015, at Trump Tower in New York City. After Trump declared his candidacy for president, I had a dream in the spring of 2016 about a presidential train depicting who would become the next president of the United States. I was living and working as a missionary in Ukraine when I had the dream. In the dream, I was standing in an old-time green-colored American train station from the late 1800s or early 1900s. The train station building was to my right as I looked down the tracks, and there were 2 men standing by me, between me and the building. The 2 men were standing with large modern television cameras on tripods, videoing for news networks the event that was about to take place in the train station, an old-time American train from the late 1800s or early 1900s with a large black locomotive pulled into the train station, and President Barack Obama and all the people on the train got off the train. When President Obama got off the train, he stood on my right side by the video cameras. and was looking back at the train as the cameras around him videoed him and the people getting off the train.
After everyone had exited the train, a different group of people started loading onto the train, and I looked up and saw the train engineer standing in an open window on the left side in the large locomotive. He had on a light gray striped train engineer cap like engineers used to wear, and he was looking forward out of the window slightly toward what was over a couple of 100 yards down the tracks in front of the train. And as I looked up at him, there was something about him that looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place what seemed familiar about him.
As the people were finishing loading onto the train, I looked to my left toward where the train would leave the station, which was the direction the engineer was looking. Not far from the station, there was a vast, deep, and wide canyon with an old wooden train trestle with cross bracing for support across the entire length of the canyon. The canyon was similar in size or larger than the Grand Canyon between Arizona and Nevada. I noticed as I looked at the trestle that many of the large vertical wooden timbers that held up the trestle had been removed. In addition to the missing vertical timbers, there was a huge pile of wood debris that had been piled on the middle of the trestle with logs stacked, many in X patterns on top of each other across the tracks to prevent a train from crossing the trestle. After seeing the trestle with many columns missing and the wood that had been purposely stacked on the trestle, I was very concerned about the people on the train, and I immediately looked back up at the engineer. He was looking at the trestle, and by the stern look on his face, I understood he also saw that many of the vertical timbers were missing and saw the wood debris stacked up on the middle of the trestle. The engineer had light colored reddish hair sticking out from under the left side of his engineer cap, but I still couldn't quite figure out what seemed familiar to me about him. When people finished loading onto the train's passenger cars and the train was completely full, the engineer got the locomotive engine powered as high as it would go and headed out of the station. I thought if the trestle collapsed, the canyon is so deep everyone on the train will die. The people on the train will have no chance. As the train left the station, it accelerated quickly. The canyon was near the train station. There were maybe just a couple 100 yards or so between the station and the trestle. When the train began crossing the trestle immediately began swaying back and forth, at least 2 or 3 feet to one side and then 2 or 3 feet to the other side. The train was swaying back and forth with the trestle. The train was going faster and faster as it crossed the trestle. The train had a cow catcher on the front of it. So far, um, what do you think, Shane?
Uh, was this written just before Trump got shot or just after? I can't remember when he got shot at, allegedly. When he got shot at, allegedly. That
Well,
was 2025, right? June? Was it June or was it July? I can't remember.
well, man, I don't remember, when that took place, but I know this was given to him in 2016. Now, this dream. So
Yeah, because Trump gets sworn in on January, what is it, 26 or whatever of 2016. They usually have their swearing in. So
mhm.
this was after he became president?
No, actually, see, we're on. What page are we on? It doesn't tell me what page we're on. Oh boy. Um,
Because if you go
let's
back to
see.
the first page,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to remember the front of it. Okay, as in the presidential, the 2016, he got this on June 16th, 2015. So that would have been, yeah, that was right when he, declared his candidacy.
when did Trump you'd think we'd remember, get shot? Because I know last year Charlie Kirk got assassinated,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's assassinated July 13th. So a month later, Donald Trump gets, after he announces his candidacy, he gets shot at
No, no, no.
July
This
13th.
is that's on his second run. Change
Oh,
this.
right. You're right. I was like, sorry, man, my bad.
Yeah, yeah,
So, okay, so 15th, he announces for the first time ever his
yes,
candidacy to become president, and then 2016 gets sworn in, and then this is when uh, Philip has his dream in 2016. So now Trump is president, and he's like, "Here's, I just had this dream." Right? So
right.
far,
I
so
mean,
good.
he was given to it prior to the election in 20. Well, if that would have been June, yes, that would have been prior to the election because then the election would have been later that year, and then he would have been sworn in 2016 for his first presidential run. I
Yeah,
mean, first term.
yeah, because I think when it says after his candidacy
Hmm.
in June 2015, I think that should be 2015 because it says I had a dream in the spring of 2016 about a president. So unless he had a dream after he became president.
In the spring of 2016. Okay, so maybe I'm wrong. So then this was given to him in the spring of 2016. Okay, so that must have been after he was sworn in. So, and I think that this may explain going forward.
Yeah.
You know, you know, uh, yes, it'll make sense why it was. I think why it was given afterwards because of what was to come.
Yeah.
So, and I know if you remember correctly, I think it was 2017 when he was standing in the office and he said the storm is just about to begin. We're at the beginning of the storm,
Yeah.
or something like that. Almost, eerily like he knew what was coming. You
Yeah.
know,
It's interesting.
yeah. So, all right.
So we got the old locomotive trains, 1800s, 1900s, which is kind of interesting because when you think about how the early presidents used to campaign, they used to go on the back of a train.
Mm-hmm.
The first president kind of pops in my mind is President McKinley, who was basically the first guy to really hammer out the idea of having tariffs. And he was one of those guys that would just be like pushing tariffs. And Trump models his presidency after McKinley. One thing. Another
Yes.
thing is Truman put about 31,000 miles uh, logged onto the train because he would go from city to city campaigning. And he
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the first president to really rely on the train system to
Right.
get him from place to place. And then speaking in front of crowds, and people actually thought he wouldn't win. And he actually won. I don't know if it was in a landslide or not, but
That's
it's
interesting.
interesting that the presidents would go to the back of a train and basically preach their platform to the public and then go to the next thing and the next city and the next city. That they would do that. It's kind of a tradition. Now it's
Amen.
different, but I find that interesting that he saw Barack Obama getting off the train and then cameras all around and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. And the red hair
And the
stands out.
red hair, yes. And it wasn't a red herring.
No.
Okay. In railroading, the pilot, also known as a cow catcher, is the device mounted at the front of a locomotive to deflect obstacles on the track that might otherwise derail the train. I noticed the engineer was purposely powering the train as fast as it would go to hit the debris as hard as he could so the cow catcher would be sure to knock all the debris off the tracks. When the train hit the debris went way up into the air on both sides of the trestle and fell down into the deep canyon. After knocking the debris off the tracks, the train kept going, and the trestle and the train kept swaying back and forth just as much as before the train knocked the debris off the tracks.
Okay, pause there. I noticed something interesting. In railroading, the pilot, also known as a cow catcher, is the device mounted in front of the train. I've seen those things where
Yeah.
they're almost like a point, and they call them cow catchers, but we know what they're doing. Really, they're smashing cows. Like if a cow is on the train, they're on the tracks. Anybody, anything, it plows, which is kind of interesting.
It's like stop the train. We're gonna have a
Yeah.
barbecue.
Yeah. So if you think, and again, I'm going Black Swanee on you for a second there, Stephen.
Okay.
I'm not saying Trump is the Antichrist. I have to make that crystal clear. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. I'm not saying it. But I find it interesting that in Daniel, you'll see a ram smashing things from west to east, and almost to the point that nothing can stand up against this thing. Whatever, whoever he is or whatever, that's what he's known for. Is basically a ram, and then there's another ram with a little horn that actually defeats the ram, and all this kind of stuff going on. So that's fascinating. Red heifers are kind of fascinating to me, because the only way Israel gets its red heifers from the purest stock, it's from America. You guys produce red heifers.
Texas.
Yeah.
And that's right where, and the eclipse passed right over the farm that in Texas that produced that red heifer.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
okay. On the far side of the canyon, which was the north side of the canyon, there was a narrow land island of solid rock reaching up vertically from the floor of the canyon that ran parallel to the edge of the North Canyon wall. The land island was flat on top and was the same height as the top of the canyon on the other side. From where the trestle attached to the land island, the tracks continued across the narrow land island near the west end of the island. On the other side of the land island, there was an area of canyon and wasn't very wide, that a small trestle extended across the north side of the canyon. The train trestle was stabilized by the land island, making the trestle not as long as it would have been without the land island. I could only see the west part of the land island where the tracks crossed near the end of the island. I couldn't see how far the island extended to the east in the deep canyon. The land on the other side of the canyon was flat as far as the eye could see, with the tracks fading off into the distant horizon. I watched the train with great apprehension as it continued swaying back and forth with the trestle across the canyon. Finally, the train safely reached the other side of the wide canyon, and I woke up from the dream as the train continued on the other side of the canyon. Okay, so in the interpretation, Revelation 1. When I woke up from the dream, I understood that the dream was from God, and it signified that when President Obama will finish his second term in office, a new president will take office who will be from a different political party. I understood that the new president would be from a different political party because of the people on the train got off and people got on. All the people getting off the train and new people getting on signified not just a new president coming into office, but also that the new president would be from a different political party, and a new administration would be established. Revelation 2. The missing large vertical columns in the trestle represent many of the foundational beliefs of our founding fathers that have been removed from the public square the past few decades. And I think it actually started in 1962 myself. I guess you could call that a few decades ago. That's when they removed the Bible, from the public schools. Oh, there it is. In 1962, the Supreme Court ruled that it is unconstitutional for state officials to compose an official school prayer and encourage its recitation in public schools. In 1963, the Supreme Court ruled that officially mandated Bible reading or prayer in public schools is unconstitutional. In 2000, the Supreme Court struck down student-led prayer in public schools, including student-led prayer before school supporting events. In 2015, the Supreme Court legalized gay marriages, allowing men to marry men and women to marry women. When our forefathers who were Christians died, they went to be with God in paradise, which is part of heaven, and are no doubt shocked at the information being given to them by Christians entering heaven from America. The founding fathers of America would not have believed that America would rebel so much against God's holy word. My family and I flew to America from Ukraine in June of 2016 to minister for about 6 weeks to raise funds for the Christian ministry. I had been directing in Ukraine since 1992. Before we made the trip in America, often called and asked me who I thought would win the presidential election, and I would share the dream and tell them the interpretation as I understood it. And I would tell them that even though the polls show Hillary Clinton will win and Trump will lose, the dream God gave me depicts Trump as the winner. In June and July of 2016, when I was in America preaching and raising funds for our ministry in Ukraine, the presidential race was heating up, and Christians in church after church where I ministered would ask me who I thought would win the election. When asked about the election, I would share the dream and tell them that in spite of what the polls say, the dream God gave me depicts Trump as the victor. I was ministering in Wichita Falls, Texas on July 19th, 2016, when the Republican National Convention formally nominated Donald Trump for president. I shared the dream with the people where I preached early that evening, and then we turned on a television and together watched some of the convention and watched Trump accept the nomination. As the dream God gave me depicted, Trump won the election in 2016 and became our 45th president. In 2018, after almost 26 years of being a missionary in Ukraine, I moved my family to America. In the 2020 election season, people in churches where I ministered as a guest speaker, asked me again and again who I thought would win the presidential election. And when they asked, I always told them the dream and its interpretation that I had prior to the 2016 election. I would like to share 9 revelations about the train dream that I didn't discern in 2016, but only discerned in July of 2020.
So can we pause there for a sec? Lots
Yes.
of stuff going on. So there's Texas again coming up. That's kind of interesting. Wichita Falls, Texas. Talked about the red heifer a little bit. One thing that gets a little bit maybe confusion, maybe you can help unpack it or whatever. Where is it? 2020 election ministry spoke who I thought would win the presidential election. When they asked, I always told the dream and its interpretation that I had prior to 2016. And I would like to share 9 revelations about the train dream that I didn't discern in 2016, but only discerned in July of 2020. So is it fair to say, is there like a 4-year gap then? Or did he share that with people but didn't fully understand it until 4 years later? Is that kind of what he's saying?
Well, I think the discernment or revelation of the dream is progressive, if you will. Okay,
Okay.
and like even on the Azovana prophecy that he delivered in 2007, it was a progressive understanding, discerning, and as uh, we only prophesy in part, and so just like even like the Bible is just opening up to us more and more. And I'm not trying to compare this to
Yeah.
scripture either,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
don't. But I'm just making an example of
Yeah.
how God can give us more and more revelation as things move forward, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's what that meant."
Yeah. And I get that. And I can appreciate that because sometimes I think, like if I write a letter, let's say I write a letter to my loved one, my wife, and I write her a bunch of notes and I say, um, I'm praying that we move to Calgary and that we have 3 kids and that I have a job, I don't know, manufacturing chickens or something, whatever. Not that I would put that in there, but just saying, um, and open up a restaurant or whatever it is. And I date it 1990. And then we come back 4 years later or 20 years later. If I read that letter today, I'd be like, wow, I got some of it right. We moved to Calgary and I got 3 kids right. But I'm not hatching chickens yet till today. But you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but that doesn't change. So I get the prophecy in part. It's not that we're prophesying in part, like here's part 1, here's
right,
part 2,
right.
part 3
Okay,
as the times change, because then we can tweak stuff. But we may understand it in part. You know what I
that's
mean?
yes, better
And
said,
then
better
yeah,
said.
so that's what I'm trying to figure out here is did he reveal it and then go, you know what? Some of this stuff I don't even understand. So I'm going to put it on the shelf. And then about 4 years later, he's like, oh, now I get more understanding of what I wrote earlier. That would make the most sense to me.
Yes, that well explained, much better than I. Absolutely, thank you, Shane. Okay, Revelation 1. The first revelation came when I was meditating about the dream and I was thinking about the engineer and that I had never understood what was familiar about him as I was recollecting how I kept looking up in the dream at the engineer with reddish hair sticking out from under his cap. The Holy Spirit caused me to realize who he was. The train engineer was Donald Trump. I laughed to myself and thought, how did I not recognize him till now? Revelation 2. The second revelation that came to me in July of 2020 about the dream, God revealed through my 14-year-old daughter, Cosette. I was sitting in the divan in our house, and Cosette came and sat down by me on the divan and asked, Daddy, do you remember the dream you had about the train? I told her, yes, of course. She further asked, do you remember the debris on the trestle in the dream? Yes, I answered. She then said she had been thinking about whether or not Trump would win the 2020 election and asked, where was the debris on the trestle? I looked at her and paused briefly and smiled and said, I know where you're going with this. It was on the middle of the trestle. You're saying that the debris on the trestle represents the things President Trump is facing to get reelected in this election, not in the 2016 election, and that Trump will blow the debris off the tracks and be president for a second term. And the second side of the trestle represents his second term, not the second part of his first term. She smiled and said yes.
Okay, let's unpack that a little bit. I like that.
Okay.
So let's think about this for a second. Let's unpack this. Donald Trump becomes president, and then the next 4 years, Biden becomes president, which is an interesting name, Biden. But that could be a different video. But I could promise you, most of the Republicans, well, let's say half, maybe most of the Republicans, thought they were ripped off with that election. Is that a fair assessment, or am I exaggerating? That they thought that the election was stolen.
Yes, absolutely.
Whether we go, it's true, it's not true. I felt that it was kind of weird that we lost to Biden, who basically could barely stand up to read his notes. And I'm like, you got this guy campaigning every single day in front of thousands of people, and then you got this guy that maybe he's not quite with it already.
Yeah.
And he's not debating, and he's winning. Like, in the debates that he did do, he got slaughtered. So it's like that 4-year gap, Trump was in trouble. He got allegedly impeached twice, like officially, but then I don't know if they dropped it or whatever, but they impeached him twice on 2 counts, I believe. And then he was spending a lot of time in New York defending himself. Some people said he went bankrupt, like his whole organization went bankrupt. I think that's just a rumorville, but let's just say that happens. You can't help but see there's debris in his way to stop him from finishing his presidency. So if that's the debris on the tracks, you can see now all of this stuff coming on, that it's like he has to smash this stuff one after another. And that's what he did every day in court. They had him every single day in court, tied him up so that he couldn't even properly campaign and all this kind of stuff. So kind of feels like this is lining up with some of the, how Americans feel about that election.
Absolutely. Because I remember whenever it was on one of the campaign stops and Obama was like, oh, Joe Biden. And it took him like, I don't know, a minute or two. He didn't run out the door like he was supposed to at the right time. Everybody was sitting and waiting. But it's just those things. And yes, it is. It's amazing that, with the campaign that Biden ran.
And we forget about this stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody just said in the comments that he was campaigning out of a basement and like Joe Biden and all this. And we forget how much Trump was hampered by just being able to do his own thing without flying back to New York all the time and defending himself and remember the infamous phone call, the perfect phone call? Who was that with? That was with President Z. I promised my mom I wouldn't talk about Zelensky. So let's call him Helensky. I'm not Mom, I'm not talking about Zelensky. It's Helensky.
All right.
So, but that phone call started a whole debris of events, if you will, for Trump, because he got brought in. They wanted to see the phone call. It was against, or was with Helensky.
Hmm.
And the idea was, if you could cough up some of these people, specifically Hunter Biden, I want to know how much money he's making. I want to know all the stuff about him. And if you could cough up some info, we'll make it worth your while.
Yeah,
We'll make it worth your while. But that started that whole, man, like another train of just smashing debris. It started from that phone call.
it did. It did. Discernment. I said to Cosette, wow, God revealed to my 14-year-old daughter what I didn't discern 4 years ago. This part of the revelation that I hadn't previously discerned and that my daughter discerned and brought to my attention was that the far side of the trestle didn't represent the second half of President Trump's first term in office, but represented his second term in office, and the debris piled up high on the tracks didn't represent the Russian collusion hoax or the impeachment hoax that occurred during his first term in office, but represented something big that would happen in the beginning of his second presidential election to prevent him from becoming president a second term. God revealed to my daughter that I hadn't discerned. So, or what I hadn't discerned. So, since July of 2020, I have been sharing that regardless of what the polls say, I am convinced, according to the dream, that President Trump will blow off the tracks all the attacks and lies, whatever big thing the Democrats will do to try to prevent his second successful presidential bid, and he will win his second presidential election.
And,
Revelation 3.
and just to pause for 1 second,
Okay.
I think, like, you're an American, I'm a Canadian. What we're reading here, is that kind of the sense that it was like, again, it feels like they're trying to block Trump from becoming president to finish off his second half, his second 4 years. Is that kind of the vibe that you get in the States, that people are like blocking this guy left, right, and center, which matches the debris that thing? But is that what you feel was happening?
Actually, no. I kind of feel like that there is, there's those deep places that control things, and it's not necessarily an election, but a selection, and how things that they
I'm,
wanted to be
I'm
free
just
to.
saying, from you, were you surprised that Donald Trump didn't get in the second time?
Absolutely,
Yeah, I was
absolutely,
too. I was too.
yes,
That's what I mean. Do you feel like there was obstacles? Like, they even had people blocking the windows for voting, and like you couldn't see the counters, and then people would have to go to bed, and then the next day the count was finally in. And it's like, oh yeah, you lose. Joe Biden won. I think it was in Pennsylvania or somewhere, where it was like all of a sudden it flipped. But when you went to bed, there were so many of these places that were not finished counting, and they told us, they said, hey, we're going to finish tomorrow. But they continued counting all night long and hid the windows,
yep,
blocked off thing, and then all of a
hmm,
sudden these big dumpster bins were coming in
yep,
with, again, I don't want to go Black Swan conspiracy here, but legend has it that these were dead people voting.
yes. That's what was being said. Absolutely. All right. I said to Cassette, wow, did I already read this one? I think I did.
Yeah, I think you're
Okay.
at Revelation 3, I think.
Yes. Oh, yes. Revelation 3. These revelations depict that since the train reached the other side of the trestle in the dream, the wide trestle over the deep canyon represents President Trump's first and second terms in office. And because President Trump has supported Christianity and Israel as he said he would before he was ever elected for his first term, that, as my daughter Cosette said, President Trump will hold a second term in office as president, as God told Abraham, the father of the nation of Israel, in Genesis 12:3. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall families of the earth be blessed. President Trump defended and helped Israel in his first presidential term, as he had promised. And so, in spite of all the opposition against President Trump, God fulfilled his word and put Trump in as president a second time. As Daniel said in Daniel 2:21, in the Old Testament, God removeth kings and setteth up kings. These last 6 revelations, and the Holy Spirit revealed to me when I was writing about this dream and its revelation. Revelation 4 is that the trestle was swaying back and forth in the dream from the moment the Trump train came onto the tracks until it safely crossed to the other side of the vast canyon. The attacks on President Trump began as soon as he took office and even before he took office, and will continue till he finishes his second term in office. Revelation 5 is that the vastness and great depth of the canyon represents the vast amount of deep hidden things in the swamp in Washington and elsewhere that Donald Trump would have to overcome and surmount to get elected and remain president both terms. The 6th revelation is that if the trestle were to collapse, it would mean the death of free and fair elections in America and the death of our republic. The 7th revelation is that the debris on the trestle, consisting mainly of logs on the trestle stacked up high, depicting where the election was stolen. And the reason some of the logs were stacked in the shape of X's was that the X's represent the signature of people voting in the 2020 presidential election. And many of those votes were fraudulent to allow the Democratic Party to steal the election that Trump actually won. Because the election was stolen, Trump could not preside over the 50 United States and Washington, D.C., and the debris would have to be legally blown away through the courts, through another election for President Trump to take his rightful place as the duly elected president. The 8th revelation is that the canyon in the dream was very similar to the Grand Canyon between Arizona and Nevada, meaning that something would occur in Arizona and Nevada to prevent President Trump from becoming president, and something will occur in Arizona and Nevada that will play an important role in correcting election fraud in one or both of those 2 states that deprived Donald Trump from a second term in 2020 as president of the United States. The 9th and final revelation is the most important of all. It deals with the future of America, of which Donald Trump will be given decision-making authority a second time. God allowed a 4-year pause between the 2020 election and the 2024 election to put Trump in office a second term because God wanted President Trump in office when the greatest threats will take place that will ever occur in the future of America. Donald Trump is chosen by God to be president for such a time as this that is about to take place. He allowed the deception to occur to allow President Trump not to return to office until January of 2025 because America's most dire hour has not yet come. But now it will come. I would now like to continue the rest of this revelation in the second person singular as a personal message directly to President Trump. The land island on the far side of the canyon represents something that will happen, that God will succor you in America from toward the end of your second term in office. The land island is also symbolic of how God protected you to allow you to be elected for a second term in office when he caused you to turn your head when a man tried to kill you in Pennsylvania. If you fear and honor God, the God and Father of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, he will do it again toward the end of your second presidency. When something much worse occurs, when the devil tries to destroy you and America through the enemies of America. The narrow land island represents something that will not last long because the land island is not very wide. Whatever is going to happen, God will supply a firm foundation of survival for you and for America. Remember, the land island will be of solid rock reaching up vertically from the bottom of the canyon to the top. All of it solid rock. And that rock is Jesus, God's only Son. So be very sure to rest on the solid rock of Jesus and not your own intellect or abilities. It will not be a bridge, but will be firm ground that will protect you from what is coming. Uh-oh. Interesting. I'm going to have to, we are on page 11.
Maybe while you're finding that, I can
Okay,
chit
go
chat a
ahead.
little bit about people in the comments.
Go ahead.
So somebody said, "Did God tell you that Trump signed in the Noahide laws?" I think that's kind of like maybe a little shot at Philip or what we're talking about.
Well,
Pennsylvania was a
actually,
false flag. Why did Trump have his shoes off? Question mark. So let me just answer that real quick. Um, I get the conspiracies that people think maybe he wasn't shot or whatever. Like the shoes was kind of weird, all this kind of stuff. I get it. But Trump did not sign in the Noahide laws. What he did was he was celebrating a birthday of a rabbi. His name is, I don't know much about this guy, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Basically, if you don't know what the Noahide laws are, like there are a percentage of Jews that believe in bringing in the Noahide laws, which are no murder, no theft, no idolatry, which is bad for Christians because many Jews that are anti-Christ, like they don't want us worshiping Christ, would consider us practicing idolatry or blaspheming. So no idolatry, no blasphemy, no sexual immorality, no cruelty to animals, established courts of justice, meaning any of these could be you could be sentenced to execution by death. So that's not Trump putting it into law, but sometimes we can look at it as favoring some of these Jewish rabbis that are okay with bringing in the Noahide laws, if that makes sense. And he's kind of walking alongside. That doesn't necessarily mean that he agrees with it, but these Jewish rabbis 100% will agree with bringing in the Noahide laws. And they're actually in the wrong circle. They're quite vicious because we Christians would be the first on the list to offend Jews that think, you know what, you're actually worshiping a false idol in Jesus Christ. He is not God. So that's blasphemy. So right away, you get executed by that. Like, if we're just being real, some of these guys go really deep and they look at us Christians as like, you guys got it all wrong. Your New Testament, all that stuff is all wrong. So again, I don't think that Trump signed it because there's no evidence of him signing it. But it's one thing to partner up with people and just say, yeah, I agree with it, and I'm going to turn a blind eye. I don't know. It's debatable.
Well, Shane, let me tell you. You want to know who signed them into law?
Sure.
It was Bush Senior back in the 90s. You can look that up.
Okay, I'll look it up. Because if that's the case, that would mean Christian persecution is only going to ramp up.
Yes.
Let's see.
And I know I read that somewhere, and that's been my understanding for a very long time.
Yes, he did. In 1991, he signed a joint. So here's the thing.
Come on.
Symbolically. It's like, here we go now. It's symbolism, not law, symbolism. But he did sign it, saying Education and Sharing Day honored the same guy that Trump honored. So there you go. They're on the same page. Included language about moral and ethical values. That's interesting. So this is Public Law 102-14, including wording that acknowledges a tradition of ethical values, mentions the idea of moral code often linked to the Noahide laws. So yeah, this is interesting because people will say, well, it just means it's linked to National Prayer Day, Thanksgiving proclamations. But I think if you read between the lines, if they want that Noahide law in place, because when you have the third temple, you don't think that's going to be enforced? Right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Absolutely. So, okay, here we go. What is coming is so bad.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, one thing. This is not an anti-Trump channel. Sorry if it came across that way. This is just us talking like over coffee back and forth.
Yes.
Philip is in full support of Trump. He just read it. He's blessing on Trump. He's writing down, man, if you fall on your knees before God himself, he'll protect you and all this stuff. How can you think this is an anti-Trump channel? We're just spitballing here and trying to measure up with all we talked about is 4 years of trouble for Trump. They were after him for 4 years. How is that anti-Trump? Like, talking about it. It's like people don't want us to talk.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to push on. What is coming is so bad, a bridge will not be sufficient enough, so a sturdy land island, will be supplied to you and America. You will need God's wisdom for correct decisions at that time. America's survival and your survival will depend on it. The danger is aimed at destroying America, which you have been called by God to defend, and you must. On the Bible, pledge your allegiance to defend a second time. The danger is also for you, Mr. President, not just for America. In the dream, I didn't see how far the land island extended toward my right, which was the east. The east of the canyon was out of view. So I don't know what it is that the land island is designed by God to protect you in America from, but I know this coming great threat to America and to you will be external, foreign, not domestic. If you adhere to the following advice, Jesus, the only Son of God, will help protect you in America from whatever the devil will attempt through the enemies of these United States. The entire population of America will depend on your decisions for survival. At that time, There will come a day of distress when you will be on an airplane, and you will need not be afraid, but to fall on your knees to ask God for help, and he will answer your prayer and direct your path in the pathway for America, and show you the drastic but correct course of action our nation unfortunately must take to survive. Once again, God tells you that at that moment to not be afraid. He will give you a strong island of solid rock to stand on, and that rock is Jesus. There were two revelations from 2016 and 9 from 2020.
Can you
11 revelations
blow
total.
it up a little bit, Stephen? Make it a little bigger.
Mm,
I think that little plus minus at the bottom right hand corner there.
uh,
Just a little bit bigger,
there it is. Okay. There we are.
if possible. My eyes are going cross-eyed. You might have to
Okay.
jig it to the right a little bit. There you go. Nice.
Okay. Now, where was I?
Let's start again from 2 Revelations.
Okay. There were two revelations from 2016 and 9 from 2020. 11 revelations total. In the Bible, the number 11 frequently symbolizes disorder, chaos, judgment, and incompleteness, often representing a state of imperfection, falling one short of the divine order represented by the number 12. It is generally interpreted as a marker of transition, rebellion, or intense testing before divine completion. The word of the Lord to President Donald Trump. Jesus Christ was crucified, and the devil thought he had won forever. But what he didn't understand was that Sunday was on the way. America had an election, and the Democrats thought they had successfully stolen it forever. But what they don't understand is that Sunday is on the way. Be strong, President Trump. The Lord Jesus Christ and millions of Americans are with you. God has got your back because you fear and respect his word, but be careful to fear him and acknowledge him as you have never done before. He saved your life from a speeding bullet, and he can do it again in a much worse situation. Only he is your true protector. Proverbs 3 1 through 8. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they have add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck, write them upon the tablet of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not on thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones. Written by Philip Barnett from Oklahoma.
Nice. Nice.
So,
yeah, very heavy Trump favored at the end of the letter. So for those that are saying like, hey, is this anti-Trump channel? It's like we're reading a letter and we're analyzing it. That's what we're doing. That's
yes.
what watchmen do. We look at literature like this and then we just try and tie it into scripture and figure this stuff out. That's what we're doing. Like over a cup of coffee, back and forth. I will be the first one to say that anybody in a governmental position, I don't look at them from the perspective of they're in that office because they're a Christian or not a Christian. I look at it from the perspective of they had the right skills at that right time to get into that position. It's not up to me to decide, oh, I'm voting this guy because I think he's a Christian when you don't know he's a Christian. Then you find out later he's not a Christian. So I always go off of the belief of vote for the best candidate that lines up with all your check boxes, because really it's probably only going to be maybe half the check boxes. Like, if we're being honest,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, does he like war? No. Okay, good. He's in.
Yeah.
Does he treat Christians nice? Yes, he's in. You know what I mean? And then we
Mm-hmm.
check him, and then later it's like, oh, he actually doesn't mind a little bit of war here and there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think we get presented with these candidates, and we get swayed in whatever direction, and then that's what we have to deal with. But I do believe God puts them in for certain reasons,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But it has nothing to do with me going, well, it's because I believe that person is a Christian, so I'm going to vote them in or not or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think there's bigger parties, bigger things going on than little old me deciding who's saved and who's not saved. Because I'm telling you, I'm at a loss right now in the political sphere.
Yeah.
Who's actually saved and who isn't? I'm at a loss.
Well, I'm completely out of the political sphere, if you will, because I mean God's in control, and where we're at right now, it to me personally, it certainly looks like 2026 is the year. That is, and whatever's going to happen, regarding this dream. Maybe this is going to be a message that Trump's going to need to have during tribulation, possibly. Okay, and just like I said from the get go, use your own discernment
Yeah.
on whether you think this dream was even from God. That's for you to decide.
Yeah.
I'm not coming on here saying that every single thing that Philip Barnett says is the gospel. We all must use our own discernment, even in our own lives. The things
Yep.
that I mean, how many people think, man, God showed me this, or God showed me
Yeah.
that. I mean, look, we're all need to examine ourselves daily to see that we be in the faith, and that's what Paul tells us to do. And we've just got to be in unity, and not be arguing, especially over political stuff. I mean, that is the last thing because my own questioning was, when it said, President Trump's going to need to fall on his knees and ask God for guidance. I mean, to me, that would be a supernatural thing that would happen, because we all know about, or at least apparently, but no man can read another man's heart, but, with the pride and arrogance and everything else, but with God, all things are possible. And so that's kind of where I want to leave this. And so is there anything else that you'd like to add, Shane?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, some of the comments about the Noahide law, and that maybe that's an episode we need to bring in, because I know some people get excited and they're like, oh, you have to follow the Sabbath and everything. And I get why you would think that. The truth is, none of us do. None of us have ever followed the Sabbath. You might think you did, but once you break the Sabbath, you broke them all. So
Yep.
it's not like you can do it 57 times and then the 58th time you forget about it, and then the 69th you just continue on. According to Moses, you should be stoned to death. So are you under the old law, or are you under the New Testament? Like, which one are you following? Because if you're going to follow it, you have to follow it all the way. And then you get yourself into trouble. You become religious overnight instead of running to Christ, who is our Sabbath.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because that's kind of what I'm discerning myself, and that's just me. My discernment is that they're, I mean, this could be like moving into tribulation. I mean, and direction for this country during tribulation. Um, I, I don't think anybody can just sit there. This is way, and anybody that wants to draw a hard line in the sand,
Yeah.
that is, and not be teachable in any way, or say, you know what, let's, like Shane says, let's have a cup of coffee and let's talk about this,
Yeah.
and still, come away from it without breaking fellowship,
Yeah.
because
exactly.
that's what the devil wants. He wants
Yep.
fellowship broken between the watchmen, between all the Christians. Break the fellowship. Let's get everybody upset with one another.
Yeah.
And that's oof, that goes all over me, because look,
Yeah.
I've got some flesh. Believe me,
For
I
sure.
do. There's some things up there that I get, and I'm just like, take those
Yeah.
thoughts captive,
Yeah.
and get rid of it. If it brings division.
Here's how I think, and I'm gonna do a guess, a Black Swanee guess.
Come on.
It's not prophetic. It's just a guess. And if you're a true prophet, you should be able to guess based on what you feel the Lord says to you, and it should come true, right? Are we all in agreement that you're a prophet? If you say something and then it comes true, then by that standard, you're a prophet for that thing that you guessed on. So I'm not a prophet, but I'm going to take a guess as to who I think your next president is, so that we can come back and watch this later. Okay? Here's my guess. And again, this is me going Black Swanee here, right? If you guys have another election, that's a big IF. I'm still not out of that. I still think you guys could go through martial law. But let's just say you made it through the next 3 years now. I think Sam Altman could be a contender for the president, only because of a couple of things that he said in his book that came out last year. This is The Optimist, Sam Altman, who is a known homosexual, does not have any desire towards women whatsoever. But one of the things that he said is, if Trump wins in 2016, I might consider a political career. So this was before AI was kind of a thing, before AI was being built. It's like, you know what? I think if Trump gets in, I might be interested in that. And who knows, maybe one day I'll run as president. Ha ha ha. AI took off. He never talked anything more about it. But then every once in a while, we will see him in the Oval Office asking for some do-re-mi money from Trump, standing next to Trump, talking about AI, that the United States of America will be at the forefront of AI technology, and they'll be at the forefront of military technology. That is not debatable, that's what they were talking about. Trump said it several occasions that we're behind, but we must be ahead of every other country when it comes to warfare. And when it comes to AI technology, we have to be number one. So they pour tons of resources. And who do you think is kind of overseeing that stuff? Altman. And what do you think if we were worried about fraudulent voting in 2020? What do you think AI could do in the next 3 years when Sam just runs off a social media campaign? And look, the polls are up. How could you argue against it? It's AI generated. You'd never be able to figure it out. You'd be like, wow, looks like Sam Altman or a guy like him wins in a landslide, and then you'd bite it full hook, line, and sinker. And I think that can usher in the Antichrist and all that crazy beast system stuff.
And I think all of that could actually happen as fast as things are happening right now. I think that could happen in 2 weeks, to be honest.
Well, the beast system seems like it's already there. They just have to push the button.
Yes.
And close it, right? Once we're gone, boom. So I'm not naive to think that can't happen. Like Jesus can't come back tonight. He can come back while we're on this podcast.
Yep.
That's why we're always telling people on each one of our shows, my show, Steven's show, like, man, don't wait. Don't put this off till tomorrow. Don't wait any longer. If you're feeling that right now, that's like, if you think you have more time, I will make a bet that you don't have as much time as you think you do. That's my bet. I don't think you have as much time as you think you do. Circumstances get in the way, all this kind of stuff, and then before you know it, your life passes like a vapor. There's a little bit of prophecy right there.
Mm-hmm.
You might think you have more time than you do, and I'm telling you, from one black swan to another, you don't have as much time as you think.
No, you do not.
Even with your loved ones and your children, you think your loved ones are always going to be around forever, that they're going to outlive you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that. There's no promise
No.
that our children are going to outlive us. It's a tragedy when they don't, for sure. But there are stories all across North America of children dying prematurely, early, accidents, silly accidents, ski hill accidents, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you're not promised tomorrow. So take advantage of the grace that we have today, right now, before the rooster crows 3 times. I just heard your rooster crow once.
No, there goes another one.
Twice.
I wish if I would have fed them before this, but I mean, this just came up so quick. I didn't have to. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm supposed to do this, and so. But anyway, I could have went and fed them, and then they would have been further out. But
they're angry right now.
Yes. Yeah, you don't want to fall down in my yard right now. No, that you don't.
After this show, I'm going to go watch my chicks hatch.
We need to live stream that, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Stick around in the back because I'm going to chat with you in just a second. Okay, guys. Sure. Well, you know what? I am going to set an outro here. There we go. There we are, right there, set. I'm just feeling the mood. But here's the thing, guys. 1 Corinthians 15, 1-4. That's something we can all agree on. I hope so. And that's his death, burial, and resurrection. Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the gospel which I preached unto you, which also you have received, and wherein you stand, by which also you are saved, if you keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless you have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins, according to the scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day, according to the scriptures. And you must believe that he rose in bodily form. He's not just a figure that, died for my sins and he's still dead. You believed in vain. And he changed his appearance for all eternity. And we see him, we'll be like him. Can you just imagine that? I mean, people have a hard time wrapping their minds around, that we can actually be changed. I mean, we believe this stuff. When other people, it's just like, they can't even imagine it. But anyway.
Oh, it's good.
All right.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see y'all later. God bless.